Yeah. Hey, welcome back to the Backyard Basketball Podcast. Oh my God. Let's do that again. Welcome back to the Backyard Basketball Podcast.
Liquid smoke.
I am Braden Dalla-Coltman. I'm here with Christian Steck. What's happening, Chris?
Hey, how's it going, buddy?
Good, man. We are on our oh my God, are we on our fifth episode? Fourth episode, maybe fifth.
Fourth episode. I've lost count. I think fourth. I think
we're already losing track. We've got our a glass of Ardbeg. I'm saying that right? Ardbeg,
yeah.
Ardbeg.
Unofficial sponsor. Yeah.
Tastes just as good as it did the last time. And we got a great podcast coming up. Okay, big news today. I don't know if you caught this, Chris. There is a point guard who has determined with the team that he is currently with that he will no longer be with this team. Surprise, surprise. We are not talking this week about Ben Simmons. We are talking about...
Thank God.
Who are we talking about?
John Wall?
That's right. And he is bound for Boston, right?
Nope.
Okay, so this is what I want to get into.
Most definitely not.
Where does John Wall fit? John Wall is coming off of a year with the Houston Rockets after a long hiatus away from basketball. He was injured. I think he had an Achilles injury or something like that, something that kept him out for a good long while. Now, this John Wall, he was a former first-round pick of the Washington Wizards. He was an all-star, one of the fastest players on the court. He's got pretty much everything except a clean bill of health. Where does John Wall fit in today's day and age in the NBA?
Well, this is a two-part question, and you didn't even bring up what the second part of it was, but that's okay. We can discuss that later. The first part, him being a player and just based on the means of his ability at his age, which I believe he's 31. He's 31 years old. So, he can't stay healthy. And his best attribute when he was younger was his speed, and the things that have kind of worn him down, his knees, the Achilles injury that he suffered. He doesn't have the speed anymore. So his best asset is gone. What other things that John Wall brought to the table? I don't know. I mean, he's a relatively consistent shooter. He's a decent passer. He's a bit of a liability on defense. And he's playing the point guard position where, like, you know, in the NBA right now, it's pretty rich in terms of point guards. I mean, you looked at the end of the kind of first type of free agency, and one of the last signings I remember was Spencer Dinwiddie, who went to Washington. And that, you know, was one of those scenarios where one of the few teams, like two or three teams that were left, that needed an actual point guard that was going to get minutes. And so it's a good opportunity for Spencer Dinwiddie. That's why he went there. He's going to be able to play, right? So for John Wall, it's like, I don't know. He's not going to go to any team and be a starter. That's not happening. So he's coming off the bench. His best thing he could go for himself right now is try to be six man. And what team could utilize a guy coming off the bench who, like, we don't really know. We haven't seen him really with a full season of what he can really bring to the table. Like, Houston was atrocious last year, and I don't think he's still like played the majority of the games. So that's part one of the scenario. Part two of the scenario, where she didn't address, is that this upcoming season he's owed $44 million. Ooh. And 44.3, I should specify.
Cheers, man. And cheers to that.
Yeah, cheers to
success.
That. Cheers to success.
And 41 mil. Oh,
44.
Ooh.
And after that 22-23 season, so next season's the last year of his contract, $47 million, dude.
Oh boy.
Who is paying that money? I don't know.
Well, he's just going to have to retain a good chunk of change of that. And they have the capacity to be able to. They're not looking to add any big contracts right now. So that's fine. But they are probably looking to get some sort of assets out of this deal. What do you think John Wall's worth from another team? You really got to think about it. I know it's funny though. The NBA has a really strange way of asset. What's the right term? Like, it works differently in the NBA than it does in the NHL. I feel like a player like of that caliber, maybe not his caliber, but that kind of contract usually garners like multiple firsts. Yep. And some serious young prospects coming back. But at the same time, to get rid of a contract like that, oftentimes you see an NBA team including one of their firsts or future firsts just to get them off the books. Do you see Houston being able to do that?
No, I don't. I mean, like, what did the article say? Did the article specify that this was just specifically from John Wall's perspective? He doesn't want to play, or is there a team consensus that no, we're going to work with you to move you? Because
it was a team consensus. He and the team had come to a consensus.
So they have some idea. They already probably got to have some idea. And again, I don't know. Like, if you're not really going to find a contract straight up that's going to match. So a team's going to be taking on a bunch of money, but Houston is going to have to flavor the deal with some other kind of asset, right? If it's picks, I don't know if it's another prospect. So you can load off that contract, and I'm trying to think of like other teams that are looking to trade players right now to see if there'd be any kind of opportunity.
What if he ends up in whatever this Ben Simmons thing is? I know we promised we wouldn't talk about it, but it seems like he's the only other available point guard. Now let me rest assured, I do not believe Ben Simmons will end up in Houston, but with these kinds of contracts,
how ironic would that be?
Hey? Oh my God, wouldn't it ever? Hey, and John Wall end up with the Sixers, and that be the thing that fucking clicks, and all of a sudden they're.
Or you could have been like, we have John Wall in Philadelphia, but we could have had James Harden, so we let that one go.
They don't want him. I don't know, man. I just don't know where John. I mean, it would be easier for me to say like a year or two ago where I think John Wall could have fit, but now he's been out of the league for this long. This kind of has glimpses of Isaiah Thomas, except for the 43 mil. He'd be a much easier asset to move if he wasn't worth that much. Boy, he is lucky that he got injured and had a contract because because he is not worth that money today.
Oh no. And he never will be, unfortunately. I mean, I don't see the path for it, but I don't like, he could, be a great support. Again, that's a lot of money. I don't know how they afford him, but I thought that it's crazy. It's like, oh yeah, you load him up on a team to try and make him even more special, say like Portland, but he's too expensive. But if you had like a team like Portland that's trying to load up with just more assets. He's one of those guys. It's like how the Lakers do it. They just kind of top off with these guys that, were good in the league and now they're a bit shaky. And once this contract ends, he's going to get a really cheap contract. And that's probably going to be the best opportunity for him after this contract's done, wherever he ends up, to go sign with like the Brooklyns or the Lakers or the Clippers or Milwaukee. And he just comes off the bench and maybe he gives you a flash of like OG John Wall, in a playoff game when you really need it. Right?
Remember Derrick Rose came back, right? From his injuries. Everybody thought he was done. He was an MVP once before, very similar build. He's a point guard, very, very quick, good handles. He's a decent floor general and he's revitalized himself. So if John Wall can have a resurgence or some sort of, but it needs to be in the right scenario. And I just don't know where that is. And I don't know, man. Like Minnesota comes to mind a little bit. D'Angelo Russell hasn't worked there. Anthony Edwards is their main man. It seems like.
What about Cleveland? What if you trade John Wall to Cleveland for Kevin Love?
For Kevin Love, straight up.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. There could be something else there.
Yeah,
But Love
the only
steals an
way I see
expiring
that
contract.
working
So
is that Kevin, well, either they run it out or they buy him out the minute he gets there.
yeah.
And
Well, I think I don't know. I think his contract's supposed to expire pretty soon. But
yeah, I do see that. I see that being a potential. Yeah. Yeah. You don't think Boston? You just don't see him working in Boston.
Dude,
What
it's
do you
just
mean?
a slap in the face. Like, what are you talking about here? Boston.
Well,
look at John Wall too. But and like, the old rivalry that happened. Do you ever remember that game where those mother effers fucking jumped up on the table?
No, I don't.
Right? I think
I
they
don't
were
have
like,
the
"Oh
same
yeah, we're the
passion for this
best.
that you
We're the
do."
best." And we ended up winning that series. So like, whatever, dude. And then he got injured. Whoops, that sucks.
Okay, well, this is a great segue, Christian.
Okay.
So just take a breath, have your Ardbeg, take a sip.
All right.
And I want to know what Boston needs to do to get over the hurdle and make it into the finals.
Great question.
And here, let me be a little bit more specific. I don't care about the external factors. I don't care about how good the Lakers are or how good Brooklyn is or the competition around them. I want to know specifically from the team's angle, what is the team missing for them to be able to get to the next level?
Just like in terms of solely the players, because this is an interesting thing. Like
the whole team, man, the whole team. They've got a new coach in place.
That's right. New GM. It's like not
really a new GM. Like he's new to the position, but he's known this organization for a while now. And of course, we're talking about Brad Stevens.
And absolutely. And Danny Ainge is always going to be an extension of Brad Stevens within like the first 2 years, regardless. So he's going to be helping him a lot in a lot of these decisions. So there's still a bit of old guard, but the new coach, Ime Udoka, super excited about him. He's a great personnel player coach, has really great relationships. Jaylen Brown already, Jason Tatum's developing a great relationship with him. And those of course are like the two most important aspects of the team. Now, for me, just to tell you straight up, looking at the whole overview, this isn't going to happen like this season, maybe not even next season. It's still a bit of a work in progress. And, they picked up some of these contracts, which I've been curious about, with like Al Horford, re-signing Marcus Smart. It's a smart thing to do, that they've made these contracts that are they're movable, like they're easy to move around. There's some flexibility in there. So I think, and how they can package up some assets to make some trades. There's always been this conversation about Bradley Beal coming to Boston and Jason Tatum. They go way back.
Yep.
But I always, hear the end of that conversation incorporating Jaylen Brown in some form. And that I'm very much like Bill Simmons in this regard. Just give me Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown for like 10 seasons. Because like these two guys are just amazing. They're amazing to watch them play together, and they get better every year. And why I don't want to trade Jaylen Brown and then he just continues to get better on another team, because he hasn't shown a season yet where he's stagnated. So it sucks.
It's amazing that both of those guys went third overall, and they're arguably, well, maybe not Jaylen Brown's year. Well, Jaylen Brown, who went first that year? Can you remember? That's right, Ben Simmons.
Well, it was Ben Simmons. I was just gonna say, I was like, it's probably Ben Simmons.
But like both of those guys arguably could have been first picks. Yeah. And somehow they end up third. Boston Celtics. They play so well together. Like the complement of the two, they're both lethal threats. But what are they missing though? What are they missing? What is this team missing? And I think that it starts with Marcus Smart, and you can be the judge of that.
Well, Marcus Smart isn't the heel, if that's what you're trying to allude here.
He's a sore heel.
He's not the heel to the team. He's a important factor to the team. So he brings in the character into the locker room, the character, the identity of the team. So like if you trade Marcus Smart, and with a new coach, maybe you're manifesting, evolving into a new identity for the Boston Celtics. And sure, that's great. Embrace change. But the biggest thing that they need is a point guard, for sure. Not John Wall. A point guard that really, if things worked well with oh geez, his name's escaping me off the top of my head right now. Kemba. It's really unfortunate. Due to just injury and timing and everything. But if that opportunity really were to work out like that could definitely been a finals contender team. And point guard is an important asset for them for sure. But I guess the biggest thing I should think now off the top of my head would be a center. That's always been kind of the number one. We've got Robin Williams, aka the Time Lord. He's amazing and he's getting better. But like, we don't have an elite. It would be amazing. It would be actually honestly so amazing for the Celtics to get like a off the Suns last season.
Cameron Payne?
No.
Chris Paul.
They're young big.
The big guy, DeAndre Ayton.
A player like that, man.
So what about James Wiseman?
James Wiseman actually would be great for the Celtics. Would be really, really great.
Okay.
But again, I don't know you can't necessarily just give Marcus Smart and a pool of players.
No. You'd have to include probably some of those younger guys, and they've got them. Like what's that kid that Naismith and Pritchard, man? Pritchard's gonna be Pritchard. He's gonna be one of those guys you look back at
the next Alex Caruso, man.
Exactly. You're going to look back at the draft and you're going to go, wow, we really, really missed out here on this one. And
he did though, like the last season, kind of like, he had some really shaky bets. So I need to see another year of him, but there's a lot of promise.
What about his 91
and
points he
definitely
dropped in the offseason recently?
Oh, yeah.
Now, totally. I don't know if that was at the Y or not, but...
I think it was at the Y, and maybe people like way shorter than him.
That's huge, man. That's huge. Okay. All right. Okay. So you don't think John Wall is a good fit there. You don't think Ben Simmons either is a good fit there. They need a point guard. Do you see anything happening with a reunion of Isaiah Thomas?
I think it's a long walk. It's like two people at either end of the Great Wall of China walking on top of it and meeting in the middle. Like that conversation would, I think, still take quite some time. I don't know. Like I remember one article about it, but I don't think it's a realistic possibility. And if I was Isaiah Thomas, I would rather if I'm going to have an opportunity to play in the NBA, want to be on a team where I'm going to get a chance to win a title. And that's just not with Boston right now. Like, right. The way, when we look at our two favorite teams, Boston and the Raptors, the Raptors have definitely reset a bit, but I would put Boston just like a slight tad over the Raptors. Like Boston is going to be this upcoming season anywhere from, say, if it's an amazing year, like say the 4th seed, but realistically, they're going to be somewhere like 6 through 8.
Again, you're giving maybe the Raptors more credit than I'm giving them, because I think that what they're lacking right now is clear in that I don't think you can compare Fred VanVleet and Pascal to Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum. I think totally. I think they're all elite players, but I don't think they're at the same level. Pascal might have been in the championship year, but he's got to show it again. But we won't. If he does show it again, then maybe it's a bit more argument I'm making here of a bit of a closer gap. Yeah, no, they're still a work in progress. They're not far, but they're definitely a work in progress. And I think that Boston can see themselves being closer in that, like they have a greater chance of making the playoffs to begin with.
And you know what, here, really, this is a great way to put it into perspective. If I'm the Boston Celtics, what is stopping me from getting a championship? What piece do I need? It's the Brooklyn Nets. I have to beat the Brooklyn Nets. So how am I going to beat the Brooklyn Nets? I need somebody to guard Kevin Durant. I don't have anybody to guard Kevin Durant. Yeah. I could put Tatum on him for a bit, but I'd rather put Tatum and Jaylen Brown on Harden and Kyrie. And that's a really good advantage for me. But what am I missing? I need somebody to guard Kevin Durant. So I need a big. So if I could get a big, that's why like a DeAndre Ayton type, I think that type of like maneuverability, he's kind of a fluid player. The James Wiseman, if there's potential there are these tall guys that have that oh man, I am just
agility.
They're agile. No, but I'm trying to think of our boy on Golden State. who really reinvented the center position?
Oh gosh. Like from their year this year? Oh, Draymond Green.
Draymond Green. Like, I feel like some of these guys, Wiseman, Ayton,
Yeah.
they've taken inspiration of Green in terms of that fluid mobility of a player, but they've got size to them, right? So it's like even more of an ideal situation, or we're going to see this upcoming season in Cleveland, right?
Well, that's what I was
Mobley,
thinking too. Like the
that kind of
plethora
player.
of bigs. They've got Mobley. They've got Jared Allen.
Oh my God.
Who else did they signed someone else this offseason?
Yeah. Well, if Boston get their hands on Jared Allen, that'd be amazing.
Yeah,
that'd be
he's
so
there
amazing
for
if
5
Boston
years.
get Jared
You'd
Allen.
have to give up something significant. It's Cleveland. Honestly, Cleveland won that Harden deal. I don't care what Brooklyn says about having Harden. I think Cleveland won with Jared Allen. 5 years at 105 or 110 or something like that.
Oh yeah, it's so good.
He's like 23, 24.
Cleveland's a big mover and shaker in the East, man, this year. They got a lot of things they could do. So
it'll be good in the backcourt, good in the front court.
Yeah, well, and just the impact in the rest of the league, right? In terms of moves.
Okay, so another team I want to talk about is the Denver Nuggets. I want to talk about the Denver Nuggets because today they just signed Aaron Gordon. They re-signed Aaron Gordon, the guy they got at the trade deadline.
That was a good contract.
It was a good contract. 4 years, $23 million AAV. That is a good contract. Very affordable. A guy who comes with a lot of pedigree. He's a high flyer. He added a jump shot from distance, which is pretty impressive. They're getting Jamal Murray back. Does this team have a chance again? Does this team have a chance at making a run in the playoffs? God, I don't even know how to ask these questions, knowing that the Lakers and the Nets are in the league right now. But I do want to dig in because Denver was the number 1 seed last year. Or no, number 2. I think Utah was number 1. But they were right up there. They had the MVP of the league in Nikola Jokic. Is Aaron Gordon the last piece here with Jamal Murray healthy that really helps this team make an impact in the playoffs?
Well, there's a couple of things. Jamal Murray. So remember, he suffered a torn ACL late into the season. I believe it was in April. And with an ACL tear, like, I don't know, you'd be looking 7 to 9 months, something like that. So Jamal Murray's probably not going to be coming back until December, January, realistically. So if he comes in January, it's like, boom, there's like half your season pretty much. Where you're really leaning on other guys that have to carry the load, which is interesting because I can't remember the guy's name, but there's a dude who Denver signed or drafted this year, rookie, who's going to be playing a lot of minutes because Jamal Murray is out. And that would be like a person I could see like as potential that, I don't know. It's just, there's a great opportunity for this kid. I really wish I could remember his name. I'm really screwing up names today. But so Jamal Murray's out for a long time. So can you carry the load for halfway through the season? Nikola Jokic, obviously, if he's in good health, can do it. And the other really big question mark for me about Denver and the honest, realistic prospects of their future is the young kid. What's his name? Michael Carter Jr. Michael Porter Jr. Mm-hmm. Michael Porter Jr.
Another projected first round pick or first overall pick, and like got injured in his
number 1 overall high school. Like, he was the number 1 kid in the country.
He had like back issues or something, so he got drafted later. Fortunately,
back surgery. Yeah, so he got and he's shown a lot of promise and like just a bit inconsistent. And I get he's like figuring it out, but like he needs to not only does he need to come together, but he has to have a strong identity of what his role is on the team. And that's something that like I kind of question as to, if everybody kind of has really figured that out yet. Like, how do you utilize this guy and his tools to the best possibility with the pieces that you have on this team? And they haven't cracked that yet. And I don't know if they're going to crack it this season. I don't know if he's going to maybe develop and we're going to see, the complete high side. But that in mind, having Aaron Gordon on a pretty healthy contract, 4 years is good. And it's something that you can move later down the road if this little experiment 2 seasons in doesn't work for you. But Aaron Gordon realistically is like your fourth option in an ideal world. And having that as your fourth option with this kind of team, they have a lot of size and a lot of strength. So they're really going to be able to keep up, surprisingly, to a team, say, when, Jamal Murray's back, like the Lakers. And that's exciting. There could be some like bully ball mentality with some of these guys. Like I really like how Aaron Gordon's played and how he's kind of grown and expanded his game. Maybe didn't necessarily hit that expectation when he first came into the league, but like he's a really good player. And again, it's like if Michael Porter Jr. can, really step into something this year, they have a strong identity for him and he complements the team. Because sometimes I feel like he can get in the way a bit. Mm-hmm. Then it's like, you're like, your second or your third best shooter, with Jamal Murray and Jokic, and there's different things you could do with different teams. There's a lot of versatility there. So there's huge upside, but there's also these really big red flags. And I just realistically feel like, long story short, that Denver
not going to happen.
I don't know. I don't think they're going to be able to put it together in time, come playoff time, to make that deep run. Maybe they make it to the second round, but that might be where it ends.
I just have a feeling that Jamal Murray, again, if he's healthy, like he's such a sharp shooter. And in those kinds of pressure situations with Jokic, like the pressure on Jokic, Jamal's open up. And then, I feel like this team is primed for something special, and they could be one of those teams that upsets another, a Lakers or a Clippers or even a Suns in the postseason.
They would destroy the Clippers.
I feel like
they're not going to have Kawhi. Yeah.
Right.
They'll destroy the Clippers.
Okay. All right. Well, let's leave that there. Big news last week, the NBA Hall of Fame inductees were inducted into the Naismith Basketball Hall of Fame. Some notable members of the class were headlined by Chris Bosh, Tony Kukoc. I'm not saying that right, but he won a bunch of championships. The Truth, Paul Pierce, Ben Wallace, Chris Webber,
let's go,
Yolanda Griffith, and Lauren Jackson, just to name a few. I think there were 16 members in total. What are some of your favorite memories here? I know you're a huge Paul Pierce fan. I'm a pretty big Chris Bosh fan. What are some of your memories here of The Truth?
Amazing memories, dude. The guy, I watched a little bit of his speech, and he like knew right off the bat, was ratting off, I think it was like this 8 or some teams that didn't draft him, was thanking them for his resolve. A guy who was a diehard Laker gets drafted by his nemesis team, the Boston Celtics, and like he's a lifer.
He became a legend.
Became the identity for that city, that team for 2 decades. And they won a championship, and he was the truth, because he does things in clutch moments to show that he's speaking truth, whether it's on the court or nowadays on his Instagram videos, posting things at the right time to keep him on his true path. And I'm so happy for the dude.
ESPN,
was it on to better things, man. On to better things. It's great.
Also really exciting for Chris Bosh. It's got to say, a guy
dude,
who was career cut short from blood clots, and
unfortunate
to have won 2 championships with his buddies in LeBron and Dwayne Wade. Just really, really special career, I gotta say, with Chris Bosh. He was the tall pillar in Toronto that fought hard to make something out of that team, and fortunately we didn't get to the promised land with him. But I feel like the bricks and mortar were there and built by Chris Bosh that kind of paved the way for the success in Toronto. Another notable guy there, Ben Wallace, man.
Ben Wallace.
He was something for lots of tall guys. Now, obviously, it's basketball players, but these are all like centers and Chris Webber. Like these guys were really, really pivotal. Ben Wallace was a pretty mean guy, wasn't he? He played with Detroit.
Yeah, he played with Detroit. Yeah, Bad Boys Detroit. He was really tough. I think he was just passionate, just very passionate. And he had the kind of, I think, killer attitude that MJ, he was emulating exactly what MJ had. And so that's why it would rub off on some people. I have like the biggest like fan boy of Ben Wallace, just in the sense, I think like, the more that I learned about him and like his character and how he just went about his business, like just the coolest dude. I think one of the coolest bigs in the league. And an amazing voice. And, one other thing too, I want to say about Chris Webber, like first off, like amazing career. I'm so glad he got inducted in, but there's some crazy parallels that I was thinking about this recently. Because, Chris Webber's getting inducted in and Chris Webber was at this weird impasse. It was under different circumstances, but he wanted to leave the team, ended up on Sacramento. It wasn't an ideal team that he wanted to go on, but he had some like very clutch moments in Sacramento. And this makes me think about my boy, Ben Simmons. And I keep thinking in my mind, dude, that's the best team that he should go to. Like it would be the best team for him.
Sacramento.
And he could have that growth and have those like that potential to not reinvent himself, but just to, I guess, re-persuade to the general public to show what he is really worth, what's been there all along, and blossom like Chris Webber did in Sacramento. Mm-hmm. The roadway is there for him to go down if they can make it happen. But yeah, awesome for those guys. What do you have any thoughts about Ben Wallace or Chris Webber?
The only thought there with Chris Webber is all I started thinking about was how great he is on TV. He's another one of those like retired NBA players who's just such a great analyst now and commentator. In his speech, he made mention to Charles Barkley for paving the way there. I got one last trade package for you. Just thinking off of this whole, we haven't talked about Ben Simmons much this episode.
Yeah, we should talk more about Ben Simmons.
I guess we should probably mention his name once or twice more, only because of the fact that he hasn't moved yet. Okay. Ben Simmons, Sacramento.
Mm-hmm.
Houston trades John Wall to Philadelphia. So this is a 3-teamer.
Okay.
And Boston gets De'Aaron Fox. And Houston and Boston dish out as many firsts as whoever wants them needs.
To Philadelphia. Wait, to Philadelphia?
Whoever wants them. Just to make it all even and work,
Oh, this is a 4-team trade because you have Philadelphia, Sacramento, Boston, and Houston.
Oh, and Houston. So yeah, that's right. So
I love it. I love this.
Okay.
So you got Ben going to Sacramento. I mean, this is like an ideal situation for everybody, right?
Yeah, I'm trying to see it all, and maybe even Kevin Love gets involved in this thing.
Again, so see, if I was Philadelphia, why would you want
John Wall?
Would you want John Wall when you could have De'Aaron Fox? I would just rather take De'Aaron Fox straight up.
You wouldn't.
It's gonna be like
everything fit,
It's gonna be Ben Simmons. It'll be Ben Simmons for Halliburton and Buddy Hield, I think, or De'Aaron Fox and Buddy Hield. But I think they're going to want to keep Fox. So I think Halliburton, Buddy Hield for Ben Simmons.
Okay. Well, time will tell. Again, we are ending our podcast talking about the future of Ben Simmons. Thanks everybody again for
exciting times.
This Backyard Basketball podcast. You can find out more on Instagram. Follow, like, subscribe, do all the things. You can find this podcast anywhere you stream your podcasts. Chris, guess what?
What?
We got merch now.
Get your merch.